it's been 3 months since we got back from Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're doing the review after 3 months?
Yeah, do you think you can remember enough
Well,
of it?
I don't know. That's going to be a challenge.
I think so too.
But next time, let's do it sooner after the end of
Yeah,
the
I think
trip.
that's a really good
Our
idea.
post-trip.
Our post-trip review should
Yeah.
be like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, after we've done the long.
Even that's stretching my memory a little bit.
So I think the trip was, 7 weeks, is that right? 7.5?
7.5, we decided,
Right.
upon reflection.
Right. And we thought we'd talk about it in phases.
Correct. 3 phases.
3 phases. Phase 1 was we flew into Lisbon, went through Spain and went through Portugal, northwestern Spain, that's Galacia,
Right.
and then back down the Spanish-Portuguese border to Lisbon, where Linda and Ray flew home, and then we went to Madrid, and that's phase 1, right?
Yes.
So what do we want to remember about that?
The Portugal part of it, we've only ever been to Portugal once previously, and I think it was 6.
Was our first trip?
Our first trip to the Iberian Peninsula, and we just hit Spain and Portugal on that trip.
Right.
And,
But this time we rented a car in Lisbon, and we had the car for the whole trip, right?
Right, yes.
Right, which was
And
nice.
so we liked Portugal the first time, but we just had never made it
Right.
back there.
And we liked it this time.
And yes.
Loved it this time.
Yeah, very, very good. So we revisited a few places we'd been before.
Especially
in Portugal.
Yep, and in Spain then.
And then in Spain, when we got into Spain, we were in there, we'd been to probably 3 times since that first trip.
Yeah, but it has a couple of our favorite
I think it's just a wonderful area. I mean,
and a lot of people don't visit it.
It's got the coast, it's got the mountains. They're not rugged mountains, but they're green and well, they're kind of rugged. And then they've got all these river valleys and wine growing regions, and some of it's kind of wild, and the people are very friendly.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was great.
So we'd love going back to that area, and I mean, there's places I could go to every year and not get tired of.
Right,
I mean, there's
right.
just and there's some still places we haven't been to. And
right. I think one of my highlights of that area, it's Spain, I guess, but is that gold mine up in
Right, the Roman
Yep.
gold mine.
And then just along the Spanish-Portuguese border, there are a lot of fortresses because they've fought over that area.
Right.
Anything else we can remember or want to say about that part of the trip?
We mentioned we were with our friends Ray and Linda.
Yes, that was a highlight of the trip, certainly, was traveling with them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was just all pretty good. I mean, I don't think there were any problems.
No, it probably was some of the better weather of the trip.
Some of the better weather, definitely. We had pretty good weather. I think we had some rain, as I recall.
Yep.
But
yeah,
we did. I know we did.
But then we got back to Lisbon, and they did their COVID tests and was fine, and everything went smoothly. And we actually went to the airport together, I think, because we picked up our rental car. Didn't we?
No, we got on a bus.
Oh, that's right. We took a bus out of Portugal to Badajoz, I think.
Kind of difficult to rent a car in one country and return it in another. So we took a bus to Spain, just across the border that day, and stayed there.
And that's where we picked up our rental car.
And then rented a car for just a few days, 3 or 4 days, I think.
And drove to Lisbon.
Right.
And again, there were some
Made a
really
few
pretty
stops,
areas we hadn't really been before there.
Right. A couple more.
And then one of the challenges of the trip was trying to meet our friends Roger and Gail at the airport in Madrid.
That was
that's the
bizarre.
beginning of phase 2, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, picking them up.
end of 1, beginning of 2.
Yes, right. And from that, with them, we went.
Well, we should explain the difficulty.
Yes.
Or not difficulty, but it was just bizarre.
Well, driving into big cities is always a challenge anyway, but it wasn't so much the driving in that was the problem. We were supposed to meet them at the airport, and we knew they had already landed because we were still driving from.
Yeah, I mean, there was some, the international terminal's Terminal 4, I believe.
A little bit
So
away
we
from.
assume that's where they would be flying into, the
Right.
Terminal 4. And the airport's a little bit out of town. I mean, it's not, and there's a nice big freeway, and we're following the signs to Terminal 4, and we go by, turn off the Garage 1, and then Garage 2, and then Garage 3,
Well,
and
at
then
some point
parking
in-
Garage 4, and then we're on the freeway
But
with no
some-
exits leaving the airport.
But at some point along there, we realized that their gate that it said they were arriving at wasn't in Terminal 4 after all. It was
Well, yeah, after that, then we
Yeah.
got on this big toll road.
by accident,
We had no choice, I think.
leaving the airport.
Now we're leaving the airport, but we haven't picked them up yet. And then we pull up to the toll booth, and I said to the toll taker, "We're lost. Help!
Luckily, there wasn't a lot of traffic.
How do we get back to the airport?" And then at that point, we had communications that they were not in Terminal, or at Terminal 4, they were in Terminal whatever, 1 or 2. And so we got good instructions, I think, from
She was quite helpful for
She
us.
was very helpful.
All in Spanish, of course.
I mean, she was very helpful, and she also was a little bit amused by our predicament that we'd driven through the airport
Uh-huh.
and didn't find it. I mean, we never saw a terminal. We just saw parking garages.
Right. We assumed you could pick up, you could
We're
drive
waiting-
up to baggage claim, and you
Yeah,
apparently
like you- yeah.
couldn't really.
Right. I don't know. Unless you went through, had to drive through. I don't know.
But so we had several miles to go
Oh,
around.
yeah. It was probably
15 maybe.
10, 15 miles to get back and around. Because this was, freeway with no exits, or
Right,
limited,
right, right.
And then we get in the Terminal 1, 2, and 3 are kind of the old ones. And we're just going down in front of the terminals.
Through a
it's
parking area.
And it's just a single lane, I think.
Uh-huh.
And the car in front of us stops
At a crosswalk.
at a crosswalk, and then we see Roger and Gail standing there at the curb. So we pop the trunk, and they load up, and
Right, it was just luck that there was nobody behind us. And
yeah,
that-
a big bus pulled up, and that was just as we were.
I mean, it wasn't a
ready to
waiting. It
leave.
wasn't a waiting area. It's just anyway. We got them, and phase 2 was with Roger and Gail through Andalusia and stuff. So in Granada, we stayed in the Alhambra, which is the Parador in the Alhambra, which was something I'd always wanted to do, and we just happened to have a good, reasonable deal to stay there. And staying in there at night was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of changes in our plans.
Yes, you couldn't find out whether the land border with Morocco was open. We knew you could fly in now because they had been totally
Right,
closed.
we
for
were going to
COVID.
take a ferry across the Mediterranean to Theuta.
That's spelled like C.
EUTA.
Yes. So the Sisson is the so Thueta,
Yeah.
something like that. We're not sure.
I was mispronouncing it, and then originally, then at some point before the trip, I heard it or something, and I thought I had corrected it correctly. I still had it wrong, but yeah, Morocco was completely shut down for 2 months for COVID. No flights in or out. Borders closed, except for Moroccans returning home. And then, then they opened it up to airplanes, but we didn't know if it was open between that Spanish enclave and just walking across the border.
Thueta or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't find out. I had emailed the hotel there that we were going to stay at. Didn't get a response. So then when we were in Spain, I asked the person at the Parador there to call. Could you call the Parador and Ceuta and ask him if the border's open? And she didn't know where Ceuta was because she just gave. I'm going. That Spanish place over by Morocco. Oh, Ceuta. So my pronunciation was so bad she didn't understand what I was talking. But once she got it, she did call them. She couldn't get through right away, but later we stopped by and she says, "Yeah, I got through to them. They said the border was closed,
The land border, yeah.
the land border, and they don't expect it to open anytime soon." So then
So then you made changes.
canceled the ferry, got airline tickets, but then that changed the rental car return.
Oh, right. So now we're going to return it. We're going to fly out of Malaga
Malaga.
and return the car there instead of where the ferry goes from.
Right. So I made the change on the rental car, and I got confirmation change in your reservation. Very clear, change in reservation. Now, this
In
was
Sevilla.
our first kind of glitch. Was we go the
Yes,
in
yes.
Sevilla we go to pick up the car. We hadn't changed the pickup time, date, or place. Only the return. They said
think
you don't
we-
have a reservation.
And we'd taken the train, high-speed train from Madrid to Sevilla, right? Yes, okay.
And I said, I've got the thing here. It says it's been, a modified reservation. So who knows what happened?
We were all, Roger and
On
Gail
their
and I
records,
were,
it was canceled and not modified.
yeah.
But
And
the
Roger and Gail and
confirmation.
I are sitting out in the parking lot waiting for him to come out with the keys so we could get the car. And he comes out and said, we don't have a reservation. They don't have any cars. And we thought he was joking because he does sometimes, but no. So we all went inside and got the phones out. And took a while, but you found another car, right?
right, the rent from from the train station there that we were at, different company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd forgotten about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
Anyway, we had that car. Went to Granada and Ronda.
Yes.
Ronda
Ronda's
we've been to
wonderful.
about 5 times, I think.
Yeah, but it's still.
But it's still, great place.
And great rooms overlooking the new bridge and everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Then
yeah.
we went to Gibraltar.
Yes, which we've never been to before.
Never been to. That was
It was quite interesting. We
that
took
was worthwhile.
a cable car up to the top of the rock,
Yeah.
and beautiful views. And are they monkeys?
Yeah.
They were quite aggressive and quite amazing. So that was interesting. So then we were going to Torremolinos as the last place to stay before we would catch the plane the next day. Got our COVID test. You had to get PCR COVID tests. They were fairly expensive too, weren't they?
Yeah.
And we had to find a lab that did PCR tests. And Roger and Gail hadn't been feeling real good. And their tests came back positive. So now we're changing all we still turned in the car. We drove to the airport. We drove to the airport in Malaga. Duke and I did. Left the car and took public transit back to Torremolinos, and we canceled as much as we could,
In Morocco.
and made new reservations to be in Spain that part of the time. And we stayed in Torremolinos for a few days until Roger and Gail were better. Kind of hold up.
Roger was,
He was pretty much better,
he was,
very much on the mend. So by the time we left Torremolinos, they were both feeling a lot better. And then,
in fact, he barely was positive on the test because it had
it had the cycle count, I think it's called. I may be
so-
wrong. There's a number that tells how much. It's kind of an indication of how much virus there were.
right,
And his was very close to none at all.
right.
But
But-
Gail was the one who wasn't feeling well at that
Right.
point. So. But amazingly, we were in a car with them for, long time, and neither one of us got it. So COVID's just strange.
Then we went to Nerja
Nerja, yep.
on the coast, farther along on the coast. We'd been there once before, maybe even on that. It was the first trip, yes.
There's a really fun restaurant there that has fantastic seafood.
Well, we've been to that restaurant twice, both times we've been there.
Yeah.
The first time the food was great, and now the second time it was the food and the comedian server.
He was
a
pretty-
young guy, and you just don't see that very much in Europe.
Yeah. It was a little neighborhood restaurant, not a
Yeah.
fancy
Oh,
restaurant
yeah, very
at all.
small.
Yeah.
But he was a comedian.
Yeah, definitely entertaining. And you could tell how good they probably were just because it wasn't a big restaurant and the inside part was packed.
Right.
So we were sitting, outside, and it was a bit cool, but it was okay. We were the only ones sitting outside. That was great. And then we stayed, because these reservations were all kind of made at the last minute, and, using a phone as your booking mechanism, we stayed at like 3 more Paradors than we would have otherwise, I think.
Yeah.
And then where's the town where we, the Parador on the hill, I think it was a weekend or something. Hyene, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah. So we went up there actually and looked at the castle, looked at the Parador, played bridge in the lobby of the Parador.
Well, we didn't stay there.
Not bridge, played 500.
Yeah.
We played 500 with Ray and Linda. We played bridge. With Roger and Gail, we played 500.
Yeah.
But we didn't stay there. No. And then when we got almost to Madrid, one of the Paradors we stayed at, which would easily be a day trip from Madrid, was filming a movie. We somehow had to figure out what that movie was. It's a comedy, I think. But they turned
And it was at the entrance of the
Parador,
Parador.
right outside the church. They'd even they covered up the Parador sign and everything, so you couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, we pulled up and we're under the lights, and the guy says,
You can't stop
you
here.
can't stop here. He was with the filming crew, and he says, just park up there on the sidewalk for a minute. I'll help you with your luggage
Right.
and everything. And then we went to Toledo.
Oh, right. So we're standing again, kind of near Madrid, and the Parador in Toledo is across the river, but overlooking the town.
And we'd never been there.
And it's
It's
really
always
fun.
been one of the things. Every trip we look into it, but
Yeah, and that was back on the original planned itinerary. That wasn't something we added.
right. But it's always one of those things. Well, we don't have to do it this time because you always go through Madrid and it's just outside Madrid, so we'll be there again.
Right.
We'll-
It's on the list of places you should go, and
So
you can see why.
every trip it seems like to Spain, we have it tentatively at some point, and then it gets eliminated.
Right.
So we'd never been there.
Yep.
We spent 2 nights there this time, I believe.
Yep. Did a lot of walking. It was fun. It had some good museums. A couple Jewish museums, kind of pretty and everything. So that was cool. Oh, and El Greco is from there, or lived there most of his life. So there's an El Greco museum. That was kind of cool. So back into Madrid, and then Roger and Gail had to get tested to fly home, and came back negative. Hallelujah. And it was great.
And one thing, speaking of COVID tests, we got ours in France. They got theirs in Madrid. We got the ones in Torremolinos, and then previous trip we've had a lot of COVID tests, but only in Portugal were they free for
Right.
Ray and Linda. I mean, they just went down.
It was very easy, and we
Yeah,
got them very fast.
Yeah, and no charge.
So traveling with friends is a highlight in all cases. I mean, we had
Right.
a great time with Ray and Linda. We had a great time with Roger and Gail.
Right.
So, so Roger and Gail flew home, and we headed.
But we went on took a bus
Out of Madrid.
out of Madrid, and then we rented a car.
Yep. Heading towards what would that be? The northern border of the northern French-Spanish border.
Yeah.
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 And the weather was pretty bad, but
Rainy.
didn't really matter. I mean, it was the place we stayed, a domestia sense of
Yes, it has 2 names, the Spanish name and the Basque name.
And it had really, but it was storming the whole time, and you walked between the buildings on the ocean there, and it was like a wind tunnel, with wind just funneling through between the
Right,
buildings.
you could barely move forward.
It was blowing so hard, yeah.
And we'd never been there.
No.
I mean, we'd driven by.
And they're known for their tapas, but they're not, there's another word for it in Basque.
Pinches.
Pinches or something like that. So it was kind of fun to find these. There's nobody out in the street because the weather was so bad. So we'd find these little pinches bars and go in, and it's very cozy and warm and comfy. So that was fun.
Didn't get my pig cheeks, though, did I?
Oh, I've forgotten what
Yeah.
pig cheeks were.
They're supposed to be known as one of their little.
Oh, you asked about them, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I asked in one place, and they said. Oh no, we had even seen them in one place, but we hadn't ordered. Somebody at the table next to us, and they were English speakers, and they were, you know.
Oh, they were telling us that yes,
Yeah.
you have to have that here.
Yeah, and then we asked for them in one place, they didn't have them, but they said, you know, if you go to this other place, block down, they'll have them. And we went there, and they didn't have them either.
Right. So this is phase 3 anyway. After we left Madrid, now we're
Yeah,
getting ready to leave Spain.
and we're on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different, adjusting. And we
So
turned
that-
in the car. We had kind of a little break in the weather. We turned in the car there, again not wanting to drive it into a new country. And
Spent 2 nights there.
yeah, it was fun.
Sebastian.
And then
Took the commuter rail or whatever, light rail, just up those 15 miles to the border, and it goes across the border into France, next to the regular train station in France. Then caught the French train to Bordeaux.
right. And then we've been in Bordeaux before, but we like Bordeaux a lot too. Stayed at a hotel that I think I'd stay at again. It's a great hotel, reasonable price. The only problem was this time they didn't have any hot water. And when we left in the morning, they asked how it was, and we said, it was nice, but there's no hot water. And they said, oh yeah, we got a problem. You know, it'll be fixed today, but of course we were leaving.
Yeah, we've called the repairman.
Yep. So
Then we picked up another car.
in Bordeaux, yeah.
Yeah.
At the airport in Bordeaux, didn't
I think it was our 6th car, was it?
Yeah.
6th.
we? Rental car, yep.
Yeah, not 6th. 6th.
Not the rental car company,
Sixth.
but the 6th car.
After 5th, it was 6th
Yes.
car on the trip.
And Saint-Emilion is
Right?
the next town from Bordeaux, very close.
Yeah.
Little wine town. And we stayed at a wonderful chateau right outside of town. But in Saint-Emilion, we went to they have a lot of wine shops. We went to the last time we were there, we stayed at like a one of the wine shops had rooms above it, and we stayed in the room above it. And we were going to order some wine the next morning, but they weren't there the next morning, so we didn't get to. So we went back to that wine shop and tasted wine, and that was great. It was fun. We had some shipped home, and it tastes better here than it did there. You know? So that was cool. And there was a freeze that night.
Yeah.
So the winery chateau where we were staying had the helicopters out, had
Smudge pots.
the heaters or
Right.
whatever in the
The
wine.
vines were just starting to bud out.
You could see the buds, yeah. So that was all very interesting and beautiful too.
Yes.
And we went through, in the Loire Valley, then went to Tours, and went to another. They have caves underneath all of there from where they dug out the limestone to build all the chateaus. I mean, caves everywhere. You see the ones for the wineries and stuff, but you also see, garages that are caves, and
Right.
you just,
They're the cliffs along the river or whatever, it was limestone,
Yeah.
and they just took out blocks of limestone, which
Created
kept going
these-
in, creating caves.
Yep. And we did another a tour, a different winery there. That area is known for its white grapes, I think,
Uh-huh.
for its
White wine.
white wine. That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Had a good time.
Yep. And then Bois, again, the Loire Valley, into the Chambon. I'm not saying that right.
Whatever, some big
The
famous
chateau, yeah,
chateau that's on the
Right.
cover of every guidebook.
right. And then to Paris. Oh, we also, let's see, I think right before, when we were still on the coast, before we started heading inland from the coast and on Brittany there, we stayed in a former windmill where they used to grind flour and stuff. And we were upstairs, so the ceiling of the room was very low. But it was also very stormy, very windy. We go into the seafood restaurant that's popular throughout the area, and there was hardly anybody there, and it was blowing hard. But everybody would say, oh, where else have you been on the trip? And we'd say, oh, we were 4 weeks in Spain. And they said, oh, well, at least you must have had good weather there and sun in Spain.
No,
No. This is
the whole region, France, Spain,
had much cooler spring than
and,
usual.
yeah, and rainy.
Yeah.
Most days it didn't rain hard, it was just drizzly
Gray.
gray.
And it didn't really change how much we enjoyed the trip. It just,
No,
it was just interesting.
could have been snow. I mean,
We've had that
We've
too.
had snow that time of the year in Spain, and we didn't hit any snow.
No.
Although going over that pass, going north,
Oh, right. The next
the next
morning.
day, I
there
think
were
the road was
pictures.
closed because of snow.
Yeah. So we just lucked out that time. Yeah. Anyway, then it was on to Paris and
2 nights in Paris.
oh, but driving into Paris.
Fun.
Oh, Lord. Oh, okay. We'll drop we have lots of time.
Lots of
Let's drop our bags at the hotel where we've stayed before, the Malia, and then we'll
Then
drop
we'll
off the
return
car.
the car.
And
Go
it's,
kind of back.
and it's not too far away, and it should be fine.
And we're dropping the car.
Mm-hmm.
It's next to subway. There's a subway station right there.
Right, so we catch the subway back.
So we could,
the
especially
train
without
station,
bags, it's
right.
no problem. Take the subway.
Yeah,
So it was advantage to
right. And the hotel.
dropping the bags off at the hotel, then going and
Right.
returning the car, and then just taking the subway.
So we're staying at Malia La Défense, and La Défense is of a lot of high rises and everything. And so you drive, and it's right on the Seine. So you drive up to where Google says you're at the hotel, and there's a split in the road. One kind of goes down into, looks almost like a tunnel, and the other one goes kind of off to the right. So we've never driven up to this hotel before.
Now
We
you're at
always
the
do-
first Y,
Yeah,
because the main road goes into a tunnel,
yes.
and it branches off, and then that one splits also.
Oh,
and
true.
again, the left one is a smaller tunnel.
Yes.
It's
So at the first
One
one we
lane.
kept right, and the next one you just had to guess because
Yeah,
the
we
map's
were
not
just
helping
guessing.
now. Oh, I'm guessing left. So we go left. Well, this is the access road underground to every high rise for the next mile, I think.
right.
Because all you're seeing is loading docks.
Right.
Nothing says which hotel it is or anything. And we're going, and of course, the GPS on the phone can't see the satellites, so it's no idea where you are. Finally, we come up, and to get back around to that corner again is another 5 miles, probably. Around, over the Seine again, back around. But we managed to do it. A lot of traffic. This is downtown Paris, basically. And go right at that and right after you go right, instead of going down underground, it was obvious where the
Right.
yeah. And I've forgotten how, but we managed to leave the car briefly enough to go up, use the check-in, leave our bags.
Yeah, it still wasn't pulling up to the lobby or something. We were just in the underground garage then of the hotel,
Right,
which was, small. I mean, it wasn't a big garage
right.
for this
Where
huge,
Yeah.
I don't know, 20-story hotel.
Right.
They had 20 parking spots or
Right,
something.
right.
But we parked there,
Yeah, so now we're
found
just,
our way to the lobby.
and then
left our
figuring out
luggage.
what route to take and looking at Google Maps and everything.
Yeah.
The route they recommended turned out, we probably should have figured out a different, we should have figured out a different route. The route we ended up taking was right through central Paris. I mean, right past the Eiffel Tower. A little bit stressful.
Well, you say the route we decided to take. The route I took as driver. No, I didn't make any decision.
Oh, yeah. I consulted with you. Should we go this way?
No. I took the route given to me by my navigator. I just followed the directions. I didn't even think ahead. Okay, go to the next corner and turn right. That's as far ahead as I could think.
This is the problem with doing a review 3 months after the trip.
What? You don't remember?
I feel like I consulted with you about which route should we take, and we agreed on this route.
We saw all the sights. We saw all the sights of Paris. I'll give you that. It was quite.
Right. And then you get to the train station where the rental car return is, and I think we've done enough train station returns that it's like in the parking garage.
Right.
But boy, if we hadn't, you're looking, the rental car signs are, well, they're about that big, I think.
Yeah.
And then it'd say go down, and then it would say, and we ended up going to like the fourth level below the train station. But we managed it, and not have to go any circles or anything, and managed to find the rental car return and leave the car with about 20 minutes to spare, I think.
Maybe it was that much.
We got out and in unison said, I need a drink.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then no problem after that.
No.
Paris was wonderful. Did a lot of walking. Went to a great jazz club not far from Notre Dame. That was fun.
And the nice thing, the one nice thing about the hotel is it's right next to the subway station.
Yes.
And it's the main line.
Very easy.
So to get to almost all the tourist stuff in the central part is on that line.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was great. Then we flew home. I guess there's anything we haven't talked about, or?
No, I don't think so.
And now we're home for the summer and planning another trip. Give the quick synopsis of the next trip.
It'll be a little different in that it's pretty much all new territory, or at least neither one of us has been
Together.
to for 40 years or more.
Yes. Last time I was there was 50 years ago. Yes.
Yeah. So we fly to Rome, which we've been to recently, but last time it was Rome and then north. This time it's Rome and then going south, and then the plan is to take a ferry from Italy to Croatia, and then to go down to Albania, and North Macedonia. I think there's another country in between those that I can't think of.
Montenegro?
Montenegro, then North Macedonia, and then Greece. And all those, just pretty quickly, a few days in each one. And then a few weeks in Greece, and hopefully get to some islands and stuff.
It should be great.
And I haven't been there since 76, I think.
I think of me was about 73 probably.
So it's been a couple years.
A few years, yeah.
I don't know if it's changed or not. Pantheon probably hasn't changed.
This is true.
Some things.
This is true.
Same.
Yeah. So we'll do another video about before we leave, sort of going into a few more details.
Okay, you say so.
And next time we'll do the review one closer to when we did the trip.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a great trip.
It was.
I don't know when we'll be back to Spain again. We have done a lot of traveling in the Iberian Peninsula, but we love it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.